Masechet Pesachim, page 54, Nun Dalid, and what a daf it is. A lot of exciting and famous agadot. We're going to start off talking about Rabbi Yohanan and the topic of reciting a bracha on fire, Borim Me'odeh Ish, on Yom Kippur Havdalah. We have two opinions about Rabbi Yohanan. Did it require it? We saw yesterday Rabbi Abba thought no, and Ula said yes, and we're going to bring Binyamin tonight, who also says yes, but a challenge from a Baraita. And then we're going to actually explain why we today have the custom that we do say Havdalah on Yom Kippur night with fire, but only from a pre-existing flame. This is the source. Okay, good. And then we're going to talk about a long section of when was fire actually created, and we'll see various opinions, and we'll see a few different lists of what was created at what point during those first 7 days. So a lot of very interesting and deep agadot. And we're going to end with the next Mishnah about working on Tisha B'Av and how about eating during twilight, ben hashemashot of Tisha B'Av, two opinions, and washing a part of one's body also on Tisha B'Av. All right, so we get started with a question regarding Rabbi Yohanan. Me tibe. We're up here. Okay. Yeah. Ve'inhu, we ask, Ve'inhu keman sevaruha. The question is, Ula and Abba bar Hana, when they think that according to the Yohanan, that one must say Borei Me'odeh on Motzei Yom Kippur. So the question is, which opinion are they following, right? What is the reasoning behind that? We saw the reasoning to say Borei Me'odeh only on Saturday night is because fire was created Saturday night. And so Yom Kippur night, Motzei Yom Kippur, is not when fire was created. So there's no reason to say it then. So that's the question. Why would you say Borei Me'odeh on Motzei Kippur? Answer is, Ki hada amar Rabbi Binyamin bar Yefet, amar Rabbi Yohanan, in the name of Rabbi Yohanan, mevarchin ala or ben b'mosei Shabbat, ben b'mosei Yom Kippurim, bechen amad debar. So we're going to follow this opinion of Rabbi Binyamin, that we do say Borei Me'odeh both for Havdalah and Shabbat and Havdalah Yom Kippur, and that's actually what people do. Go out, go to shul, you see that, everybody's doing that. So that is a proof in of itself. Me'tibeh. Now we have a question from a Baraita, which is much stronger, earlier than all these Amoraic opinions. It says you only say bless on the fire after Shabbat, because that's when it was first created. And once you see it, the second you see it, the first fire you see on Motzei Shabbat, you say Borei Me'odeh Esh. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says Omer Sodran alakos. You don't say the first second you see a fire. Rather, you say it with Havdalah on a cup of wine. So you say it all the brachot together. Fine, but the only machloket here is when you say it, but they all agree that you say it. So V'amar Rabbi Yochanan halacha ke Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yochanan says we should first say it on the kos of Havdalah. But the problem is, this only says Motzei Shabbat, not Motzei Yom Kippur. So this seems to contradict those who think that, according to Rabbi Yochanan, you do say it also on Yom Kippur. So that's the question. Answer, this is the source of our custom, Lakashya. Kan be'or Shabbat, kan be'or hayoseh min ha'asim u'min ha'avanim. When we have a fire that rested, in other words, a fire that existed on Yom Kippur itself, then you can say a blessing on that fire. But when you have a fire that you just created out of wood or stones, then you made it on Motzei Yom Kippur, then you do not say a bracha on that for Yom Kippur, but yes, you would for Motzei Shabbat. Good. Why? What's the difference? And the answer is because every Saturday night, because that's when fire was created. So even for a new fire that we just lit, we're also going to bless God for that fire, because it's about the creation of fire itself. It's the whole phenomenon. Whereas for Yom Kippur, the only reason you would say it is because we cannot use fire for cooking on Yom Kippur. So if you have a fire already, pre-existing, either that you lit it before Yom Kippur, or you lit it on Yom Kippur for a permitted reason, like for a sick person that needed it, then since that fire you were not allowed to use on Yom Kippur, and now that Yom Kippur ended, there's a change. So now you can appreciate this fire that was prohibited. Now I can use I say Ba'odem Esh. But a fire that didn't exist on Yom Kippur, I wouldn't say it, because I'm not going to bless God about the phenomenon of fire on Yom Kippur night, because that's the whole week. That only applies to Saturday night. That's the explanation of why we do that today. We make sure to keep a 24-hour candle around for Yom Kippur, and we do this. Every shul does this until today. Okay, good. So that explains that. Taneh Hada. Ur hayosem min ha'asim u'min ha'avadim mevarechim alav. Okay, same topic. We have two Baraitot that contradict each other. The first Baraita says fire that you just lit, you can say a baracha on that. Another Baraita says you don't say a baracha on that you newly lit on Motza'eh, whatever it is. So the answer is La Kashya kan b'Mosei Shabbat, kan b'Mosei Yom Kippur. So same answer that we gave to above, that the first Baraita that says a newly lit fire, you do say baracha, that's talking about after Shabbat. And one that says you don't is talking about after Yom Kippur. Excellent. Rabbi mefazeran. Now, just going back to or when do you say it? Whenever you see a fire, or do you collect all the brachot about Havdalah and wine and fire, Pesahim? Do you bring them all together at the same time? Rabbi mefazeran, he would distribute the blessings and say that whenever he saw a fire, whenever he saw Pesahim, he would say, whenever he got wine, he would say it separately. Rabbi Chia mechanesan. Rabbi Chia made sure to say them all together at the same time, like we usually do. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi af al pi sheRabbi mefazeran chozer v'sodran ala kos kedei losi banav u'bnei beto. Yes, it's true. Even though Rabbi would say them separately, he also said them together. So, kind of on his way home from Bet Knesset, he would see a fire. He would say that he would see Pesahim. But then when we got home, he would also say Havdalah to fulfill his family's obligation to hear Havdalah, and he would say it together. This is another, by the way, practical thing. Let's say you didn't have a fire, and you want to say Havdalah. There's no fire around. You can say Havdalah nevertheless without the fire, and later on, if you find one, you can. So yeah, certainly we do usually say it with the fire, as is this custom. Good. Okay, so now with all this was based on the assumption that fire was in fact created on Saturday night. But as that's not clear, let's go and find the sources for that. Asara devarim nibdeu be'arib Shabbat ben hashemashot ve'elohen be'er ve'haman ve'keshet ketav u'michtav ve'haluchot וכברוש משה ומארה שעמד בו משה ואליהו, פתיחת פי האתון ופתיחת פי הארץ לבלוע את הרשעים. All right, so what do these things, 10 things have in common? These are all miraculous items, things that are out of beyond the rules of nature. And the point is, when you see something like this, it's actually pre-embedded within nature. It's not a deviation that all of a sudden comes out, but within the creation, God already implanted these things that one day would become manifest. So the be'er, the well, that Miriam's well that followed them along in the desert, that was one of them. Haman, not Haman Harasha, rather Haman with a dagesh and the mem. The man that fell for Israelites in the desert. Keshet, the rainbow. Ketavu michtav haluchot. Some different interpretations regarding this, but I like the interpretation here of Rabbeinu Hananel, who says it refers to the miracle of writing, the fact that we can communicate through writing, and the writing system, the alphabets that we have, and the fact that they were written on the luchot, right? So that itself, although it was developed by mankind later, that is itself a great miracle. In fact, it really is. The fact that we can sit here and read the words of the sages from thousands of years ago and learn from them and be inspired by them. All right, that is certainly an amazing phenomenon, and couldn't have happened unless it was built into creation right there from the beginning. Also, the place where Moshe is buried, and nobody knows where it is. How could it be after so many years no one can find it? That's right. Moshe, when he went into Nikrat Hatzur, when he saw God passing by, and Eliyahu also goes into a cave, and this midrash insightfully compares them and said it's the same cave. That is a very special secret cave. And when the Aton opened its mouth and spoke in Bilam, and the opening of the earth to swallow up Korach and the other evildoers. Good. All those are phenomena that seem miraculous, but actually were embedded within creation. Rabbi Nechemiah Omer Mishum Aviv Af Ha'ur. Okay, that's why we brought this whole thing. Rabbi Nechemiah adds that list of 10 also fire, vehapered, and a mule. What these two things have in common is that they are man has to do something in order to make them. You have to rub sticks together to make fire, and you have to cross a horse and a donkey to make a mule. So these are kind of things that are embedded in creation, but mankind needs to come in and actually activate it. Rabbi Yoshia Omer Mishum Aviv Af Ha'ayil V'Hashamir, also the ayil that Abraham saw after the Akedah, and the Shamir, that special worm that was used to cut the stones in the Bet HaMikdash, so they wouldn't use a blade. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Af HaSebat, also tongues were created then. Why tongues? In order to create tongues, you need other tongues, because right, you have to take a lump of metal, you have to hold it with tongues in the fire till it gets soft, and then you bang it out, put it in the fire again, keep banging it out. That's how you make something out of metal. But you need tongues in order to make something out of metal. So to make tongues, you need another pair of tongues. Keep going back. How did anyone possibly make the first pair of tongues? It's impossible. What a great philosophical question. And therefore, the first tongues must have been created by heaven. And after that, we can make everything else after. Against that view, against the Yehuda's view, someone asks, Amar le, that's not the only way to make something. You can make a clay mold and pour in the molten metal, and then you can make tongues that way. This is okay, you're right. Okay, forget that one. Tongues could have in fact be made, even the first ones, by mankind somehow, but they'd have to figure out what he would use them for in the first place. Okay, this is like what was created first, the can or the can opener. All right. Anyway, la kashya. All this was part of a question regarding the fire, right? Was it in fact made on Motzei Shabbat? All these things were created on Friday at twilight. So which one is it, Motzei Shabbat or Friday at twilight? See, Friday at twilight is a special time because it's still within the 6 days of creation, whereas Motzei Shabbat is already afterwards. It's like, it's like a parting gift. So which one is it? And if it is Friday night, then we wouldn't say Borei Me'or Ha'esh on Saturday night. La kashya ha be'ur didan. So our fire that we use all the time, that's what was created Saturday night. Ha be'ur di Gehinom. And this Baraita was talking about twilight. That was talking about the fire of Gehinom. A lot of people like to say that in Judaism we don't have hell. It's not true. Christianity does emphasize it a lot more, but there's plenty of Talmudic sources that talk about the fire. Here we go, the fire of Gehinom. Urdidan Motzei Shabbat, Urdi Gehinom be'erev Shabbat. Good. The Urdi Gehinom be'erev Shabbat Ivri. Hold on, is that true? That the fire of Gehinom was in fact made Friday afternoon? V'hatanya shib'a devarim nibru'u kodem shenibra ha'olam. Now another list of 7 items that were created before creation. There was creation, before day one. These were pre-existing items that had to be there even before the world could be created. Ve'eluhen Torah, u'tshuva, ve'gan Eden, ve'gehinam, ve'chiseh hakavod, u'bet hamikdash, u'shmo shel Mashiach. Right, really very interesting list. We're going to go through each one and find the source. Torah, tichtiv, Adonai Kanani Reshit Darko. This pasuk from Mishnah. In Mishnah, it's talking about Chokhmah. That Chokhmah was there, pre-existing before the time of creation. And Midrash takes this and applies it to Torah. This is has parallels in Plato, who talks about the architectural plan, the idea of the world that existed before the physical world. So this is very interesting. Teshubah dichti beterem harim yuladu. In Psalm 90, at first it talks about that before the world was created, and then after it talks about Teshubah, right? God said, return, O human beings. This is also amazing. It means that built into creation is the knowledge that people may trip up and fail sometimes, but you couldn't possibly create the world without the original possibility of people repenting. Good. Gan Eden dichtiv hayta Adonai Elohim gan be'eden mi kedem. So the mikedem we usually translate as in the east, but it could also mean beforehand. So Gan Eden was already there. Gehinom dichtiv ki aruch me'etmol tofteh. Tofteh, hearth, or others interpret it as a place of pitui, that place where people are seduced. Either way, etmol, this was already there from before. Okay, this makes sense. I mean, the world, the idea of reward and punishment was already there. The world was created to be a place where people would have free will and choice and face these two possibilities, but also have the opportunity for teshubah. And besides that, kiseh hakavod beit hamikdash tichtiv kiseh kavod marom erishon mekom mikdashenu. So the God's throne, God's presence in the world, and the Beit HaMikdash was already there because it's Merishon, and the name of Mashiach. That's beautiful. Dichtiv yehi shemo leolam lifnei shemesh yinon shemo. So may his name be forever. See in JPS it translates, may his name endure. While the sun lasts, may his name endure. In other words, as long as there is a sun in the future, may it also continue. But this Midrash takes it as lifnei shemesh. Even before there was a sun, the name of Mashiach was already there. This is like the Oscars, it's in an envelope, and one day we're going to open it, and the name of Mashiach is, right? So in other words, even throughout all the trials and tribulations that the world will go through, the salvation and that leader of redemption is already named and is therefore sure to come. Okay, so Amri, all that was part of a question. And the question was, we can look at this here, right? First we said that Saturday night was our fire. Friday at twilight was the fire of Gehinom. But we just saw that Gehinom was actually created before day one. So now we have another contradiction that we have to solve. Amre Havdalah hu denibra kodem shedibra olam ve'ur dideh be'erev Shabbat. Oh, so no, when it said God created Gehinom beforehand, it was just the area, the place where Gehinom would be. But the fire, it was not lit until Erev Shabbat. That's when it started being lit. No point in having it lit before then. There was nobody around. Okay, good. And ve'ur dideh be'erev Shabbat ibre. Now a question still on that. Is that true that the fire of Gehinom was made on Friday afternoon? V'hatanya Rabbi Yosef amar ur shebara HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'sheni b'Shabbat en lo kibiya le'olam shenemar v'yasu v'ra'u b'pigrei anashim ha'posherim bi ki to'altam tola'tam lo tamut v'isham lo tichbe. Pasuk in Yeshaya talks about this everlasting destruction. Their fire will not be extinguished. These that will happen to these posherim, these evil people. So this Baraita says that the fire that God created on Monday, Yom Sheni, will never go out. And this is describing the fire of Gehinom. So you see that this was created on Monday, not on Friday afternoon. Again, another statement that the second day was not called good because the fire of Gehinom was created on that day. Now it's true, on Monday, other things were created that were good. So it loses out on a good just because it had Gehinom on it. don't worry, it was made up for on the Shishi, where it's Tov Me'od. So that Me'od tells you that the rest of what was created on Monday was in fact good. Okay, in any case, we have a problem here because it seems to have been on Monday and not on Friday afternoon. Ella, now we can put them all together. The space of Gehinom was created before day one. And in fact, yes, the fire of Gehinom was created on Monday. Our fire, the regular fire that we use all the time, the idea to make fire was created on Friday twilight, but it was not actually made until Motzei Shabbat. In other words, God had made the physical laws to have the possibility that there would be fire, right? That if you make something hot enough, it will catch fire. That was embedded in wood, in all things that burn from before, for the sixth day, end of the sixth day creation, just before. But it took man to actually come and rub those sticks together to make an actual fire. Good. There's two things though, like this, Motzei Shabbat, נתן הקדוש ברוך הוא דעה באדם הראשון מעין דוגמה של מעלה. והביא שני אבנים ותחנן זו בזו ועשה מהן אור. So the potential for fire was created on Friday afternoon, but on Saturday night, God placed within man the idea that he should bring two stones together and rub them against each other, and spark will come out and fire will be made. Oh, good. And that's what he was able to do. And similarly, and he taught him how to bring these two animals together, horse and a donkey, and to create a mule. But the potential that a mule would be created was already embedded in the DNA on Friday afternoon. Okay, so that answers all the questions, right? So we have the second answer is that on Monday, the fire of Gehinom. On Friday, twilight, potential to make fire, but Saturday night was the actual fire. And that is proven from this Baraita about two potential creations. Now that we mentioned the mule, we're going to see another interpretation about when the mule was made in a later generation. After that, we're going to see other lists, 10 and more creations during twilight, 7 unknown things, and 3 thoughtful phenomena. Okay, so let's see more about the mule. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer that it was not made on Saturday night, the mule. That was not the first one. Rather, Pered bimei Anah haya. This is down in the list of the Edomites. So there it says, Hu Anah asher masat hayemim bamidbar. That was Anah. He found mules in the wilderness. We understand Masa, that he actually crossbred and made a mule out in the wilderness. So Anah is the first one. Now, regarding this Anah, what do we know about him? Well, he's listed twice in the genealogy in that very perek. So this is curious. Dorshe Hamorot hayu omerim. It's interesting. They're Dorshe Hamorot, and they're talking about a Hamor, but that's not what it has to do with. But rather, Dorshe Hamorot. These are those who are interpreters of deep things, of difficult things to understand. So symbolic or maybe allegorical interpretations. These people that were saying Agadot. I wonder if Hamor has to do with Homer, because there were lots of allegorical interpretations of Homer also, and Saul Lieberman has shown that there is a similarity between the methods of Agadic Derasha and those in Alexandria. In any case, these interpreters would say Anah pasul haya. Anah was an offspring of incest. And that's why he had the talent to think of crossbreeding these animals together. So Seir had several sons, including who lived in Seir the Chorite. He had many sons, including Sibon and Anah is the rest of the pasuk. Right? So you got it. Sibon and Anah are sons of Seir. And then later on, it says, Uchtiv ele b'nei Sibon ve'aya ve'ana. So Sibon had a son named Anah. So this is strange. Sibon had a brother named Anah and also a son named Anah. Now that's perfectly possible. There's two people called Anah, right? And so his son was named after the brother. The son is named after the son's uncle, right? So that could be. But the Midrash says no, there was only one person named Anah. So how could a same person be Sibon's brother and also his son? Well, it could be if Sibon mated with his mother. And so there you go. Anah is a child of incest, and that's why it was fitting that he be the one that crossbreed animals inappropriately, right, illegally, at least in halacha now. And post Sinai, that was illegal, and therefore that's Anah. So he's denigrated. So now we wonder why'd you just say such terrible things about Anah? Vidilma tere Anah havu. Maybe there's two of them, and they both have the same name. Could be he's named after his uncle. Amarava amina mileta de shavod malka la amara. No, I have a proof that's the same Anah. There's only one. I'm going to tell you something that King Shapur didn't say. King Shapur, he was a king of the Sasanian Persian dynasty at the time of the Amoraim. Okay, the king didn't really say this. What they meant is Umanu Shmuel. He means Shmuel, and he's calling Shmuel the king because Shmuel is such an authoritative figure. Anything he says is like a decree of the king whenever he says halacha. So it's a way of saying, this comes from a good source. Others say, Others say that it's not Rava that said about Shmuel, but rather Rav Papa said, I will tell you something that even King Shapur didn't say. And he meant by King Shapur, he meant Rava. Other versions of this statement say Abba. Anyway, whoever said this, what's their proof that there was only one Anah? Amar Kera, who Anah? That is the very Anah. In the Peshat, it means that's the famous Anah who created mules. But in who found mules, okay. But they're reading it as this is the same Anah that you read about before, who was the son of Seir. He's also the son of Sibon, who Anah de Meikara, and that's their proof that he was a child of incest. All right. Now, since we're talking about lots of lists, here's a couple more. This is the same list that we saw before, but we're going to add a few items to it. So 10 things were created Friday during twilight. Ve'elohen be'ed uman v'keshet haketav ha'michtav ha'haluchot kibro Moshe umara shamad ba Moshe ve'Eliyahu pitichat piaton uftichat pi uftichat pi ha'aretz libloa et harshayim. We saw all those. Ve'yesh omrim af maklo shel Aharon shekedeh ufracheha. Some say also Aharon's mateh that had almonds and blossoms come out of it when he was in competition with Korach. Ve'yesh omrim af hamazikin. Some say also demons were created at this time. They're kind of a half creation, like they were created but didn't quite get bodies yet. Also, the garment of Adam, when he saw he was naked and God created garments of skin for them, those were also already there from Friday afternoon. Well, actually, that one makes sense because that is when Adam sinned and so on. Okay. Another list, 7 items that we can never know. These are mysterious things for good reason. Elohem Yom Hamita, the day one will die. Nobody can know the day that one will die, which is a good thing because that we should repent one day before we die. Since we don't know when that is, we'll repent all the time. That's good. Also, the day when a person is consoled, someone loses something, loses money, loses a loved one, right? You never know. Sometimes you get over it after a day. Sometimes it takes you years and years. And so, if you knew exactly when you would be consoled, in 3 weeks you'll forget about it. Then already from now you'd be happy and you wouldn't feel bad. So it's that. Part of the feeling of mourning is not knowing how long it will be. And so we don't know how long we take to console a person for something. Ve'omek hadin, and the depth of justice, right? What does it mean to judge something as it really is? We generally judge people and situations just based on the surface of what we can see, right? But true judgment is much deeper and is beyond us. Also, what's really in a person's heart? What is someone else thinking is not something we can know. And that's for the best, because there's a famous Gilligan's Island where they could all read each other's minds and it didn't end well. So we probably don't want to know what everybody else is thinking. You never know how you're going to make money. Sometimes you have a plan, you think this is going to make money, and then something on the side that's just a hobby, all of a sudden that makes money, right? And you never know where a livelihood will actually come from, what will be successful and what not. Malchut Bet David, Matai Tachzor, and when will the monarchy, the dynasty of David come back? Malchut Chayevet, Matai Tichle, and the evil kingdom, when will it cease to exist? Referring to Rome. All these things are concealed. Some of them it's good we don't know. Some of them we actually do wish we would know. But all these things are beyond our comprehension. The last list is three things that God thought about. It rose in his mind. God said, you know what? This would be a good idea to create. And even if God would not have thought about them, he would have had to think about them, because these are necessary items that you might kind of slip your mind if you were creating a world, but you really need them. Al hamet sheyasriach, right? A great benefit to mankind that dead people decompose. Otherwise, your great grandpa, you'd be on the couch, you just leave him there, and you'd get sad every time you see him. And so we wouldn't be able to forget about the dead if we didn't have to bury them. And similarly, the fact that those loved ones who die are eventually, we forget, don't totally forget about them, but we are comforted about them, and we are able to move on, and the pain of their loss diminishes with time. That's also a wonderful grace that we are granted. And also that grain would rots. Otherwise, everybody would hoard all the grain that they can get, because you can keep it forever. Since you can't keep it forever anyway, so people will only store up what they can use, and thereby allow for sharing, that other people can get some too. And some say the fact that currency circulates, right? What an amazing thing. This is like a miraculous thing that you wouldn't easy to overlook. How important it is, the fact that we can, we use a coin that's not actually worth in metal its value, and yet people accept it, and you can buy fruit, and you can, people will give you goods for that. It's just based on mutual trust, and it's not actually based on the value of the currency. So the fact that economies work is also a great miracle that God would have had to think of, even if he didn't think of it. And therefore, I think this midrash is a way of saying to appreciate even these small things that help us to live productively. All right, so really beautiful set of agadot. And now we get to the next Mishnah. Makom shenagu lasot melacha b'tisha b'av osin. Right, another item that there are different customs. On Tisha B'av, some places have a custom that they work. People go to work. They go work on the farm. They go work in the store, even on Tisha B'av. In other places, they have a custom that they want to concentrate on the sadness and mourning of Tisha B'av, and therefore they don't go to work. In all places, Torah scholars should not work. Right, whatever Torah scholars might be working also, but on Yom Kippur they should make sure to concentrate on mourning and sit and say kinot for 6 hours, like we do in Sheretz Yisrael, and that's really the proper thing to do. Rashbag says not only for scholars, everybody should be a scholar, like a scholar in Yom Kippur. It's not like showing off if you take off from work on Yom Kippur to sit and mourn. All right, that is appropriate for everyone to do, but it's up to custom. It's not official halacha. Okay, good. So that's now that's the Mishnah. We're going to now discuss is are you allowed to eat during twilight of Tisha B'av? In other words, when does the fast start? Only when it gets night, or even right at sunset? So Shmuel says is lenient. He says you can eat during twilight. Rabbi Yohanan says no. It starts even from before. We're going to compare Tisha B'av to Yom Kippur in this regard, and also we're going to compare it to other fast days. In the days, in olden days, in Israel, when there was no rain, they would begin fasts. First 3 set of simple fasts that are lenient, like only during the day. Then 3 more fasts that are more stringent, and then 3 more fasts that are even more stringent, like Tisha B'av. And so, by comparing those fasts for rain with Tisha B'av, we're going to learn the differences, if there are any, between them. Okay, so regarding that, Amar Shmuel, En tanit tzibur beBavel, ela Tisha B'av bilvad. So in Israel, they have lots of full fast days, Tisha B'av, and anytime it doesn't rain, they would institute these 24-hour, 25-hour fast days. But in Bavel, the only long fast day, full fast day, is Tisha B'av. Of course, Yom Kippur too. But right, besides that, all the other fast days are short days, or only daytime, 12-hour fast days. Good. Wait, so if he's saying that, does that can we infer that according to Shmuel on Tisha B'av you may not eat on during twilight? Because right, this is he's comparing this to a Tanit Tzibur. Tisha B'av is like a Tanit Tzibur, and Tanit Tzibur you can't eat during twilight. But on the other hand, Shmuel Tisha B'av ben hashemashot shelo mutar. He explicitly says that you can eat Tisha B'av during twilight. So Shmuel called Tanit Tzibur ben hashemashot shelo mutar. Okay, one way to reconcile this would be, and we're going to accept this, is that he thinks that all of the public fast days you can eat during twilight. So when he says in Bavel, the only day that's like a public fast day is Tisha B'av, he meant, yes, it's really like that. Both on public fast days and Tisha B'av, you can eat during twilight. And that's what he said explicitly in the second statement. Right, so that would all make sense. Now, if you're going to say that, but we have a Mishnah that says, regarding communal fast days, that you can eat beforehand while it's daytime. So what does it mean you can eat while it's daytime and not when? So doesn't that come to exclude ben hashemashot, that you cannot eat? And that would mean that according to everybody, because it's a Mishnah, that you cannot eat during twilight of fast days. And we answer, no, lo. The Mishnah is saying you can eat during the day, but not at night. So only not at night, but twilight you can eat. So it's possible to interpret that Mishnah to say that on public fast days, you can eat during twilight. And that's what Shmuel felt. And therefore, Tisha B'av is just like the other public fast days. So that's the opinion of Shmuel. Now we're going to try to bring a proof for Shmuel. The proof will be rejected, but it's not a challenge. Nema mesaya le en ben Tisha B'av leYom Kippurim ella שזה ספקו אסור, וזה ספקו מותר. Baraita says there's no difference between Tisha B'av and Yom Kippur, except that for Tisha B'av, if you have some doubt, Yom Kippur, if you have a doubt, it's Doraita, it's prohibited. Whereas Tisha B'av, which is D'Rabbanan, if you have some doubt, then we go to leniency. So, my sefeko asur, what case are you talking about of doubt? La ben hashemashot. So during twilight, that's a doubtful time. We're not sure if it's day. We're not sure if it's night. So therefore, Yom Kippur, you have to be stringent. So you can't eat on Yom Kippur twilight. But the Tisha B'av, you can eat based on this. So that's a proof for Shmuel, who is lenient about eating twilight of Tisha B'av. Isn't that a good proof? No. La kedamarav shesha bered Rav Idi likbiyad yarcha achaname. No, when it's talking about here an uncertainty, it could be talking about the calendar, setting the calendar when the new moon is, right? We're not sure when we had witness testimony, we weren't sure when the new moon is, and that's why we have 2 days of Yom Tov. So what about 2 days of Tisha B'av? No, you are not going to keep 2 days Tisha B'av because it's the Rabbanan, and therefore if we have a safek of the day, we will be lenient only one day Tisha B'Av. However, for Yom Kippur, which is the Baraita, you have to fast for 2 days, right? Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that make sense? For all the holidays, we keep 2 days, 2 days Rosh Hashanah, 2 days Sukkot. Why not 2 days for Yom Kippur also? Okay, that's where it leaves it like this. All right, that's it. There another Gemara that does talk about sages, some who did in fact fast for 2 days on Yom Kippur. Obviously, because of the great difficulty, we don't do that, right? But anyway, according to the source, yes, you would have to fast for 2 days of Yom Kippur. Okay, so in any case, we didn't have a proof for Shmuel, but his statement stands. All right, so that's all Shmuel, who is lenient. Now we're going to see the Yohanan, who is stringent, and he says, no, you cannot eat or do any of the other afflictions during twilight of Erev Tisha B'Av. Darash Rabbah, ubarot umenikot mit'anot umashlimot bo, כדרך שמטענות ומשלימות ביום הכיפורים. ובין השמשות שלו אסור. So Rava taught in public as halacha l'maaseh that pregnant and nursing women still have to fast the full day on Tisha B'Av, just like on Yom Kippur. Same. Also, on Tisha B'Av, during twilight, prohibited. There you go. That's explicit. Rabbi Yohanan agreed to that. So that's there you go. Rabbi Yohanan disagrees with Shmuel. He says not allowed. Really? Did he say that? My love, the Ben Hashemashot. Rabbi Yohanan said another statement that where he said Tisha B'Av is not like other public fast days, those long fast days that they made in Israel when the rain didn't come for a long time. So it's not like it. What do you mean it's not like it? Well, public fast days, you cannot eat during twilight. So that means Tisha B'Av, you can eat during twilight, right? So that contradicts what Rabbi Yohanan says. We say, no, lo lemelacha. But this is only comparing them regarding work. That on the other days, you cannot do work, other public fast days. On Tisha B'Av, you can work. That's what it was talking about, not twilight. So don't learn anything about that. In fact, twilight is prohibited. All right. So, but that's a problem. Really, this statement that Rabbi Yohanan is coming to teach that you can do work on Tisha B'Av, melacha, tanena. We just have a Mishnah. Our Mishnah is all about working, and it says you're allowed to work. There's no prohibition against it. It's only a custom. Some places they do work. Some places have a custom they don't work. Even Ashbag, who said everybody should be like a Talmid Chacham, he was just saying that if you don't do work, you're not acting presumptuously, but he wasn't saying as a halakha you have to. So you see that the Mishnah, no one thinks that halakha is that you can't work. Unlike the public fast days where it was a prohibition, you cannot work because they wanted everybody to be there for all the prayers. Val mesad lo asad is no prohibition. So this interpretation of Rabbi Yochanan's statement doesn't make sense. That he was talking about a distinction of melacha. Ela may eno ketanit sibor. Rather, Rabbi Yochanan says Tisha B'Av is not like Tanit Sibur. What was he referring to? The Tfilat Ne'ilah. Ne'ilah, which we all know from Yom Kippur as the fifth prayer, was also said during the public fast days when there was no rain. Ne'ilah was also said there, but not on Tisha B'Av. That's the difference that he was referring to. They are, they're the same except for Ne'ilah. But hold on, can it be Ne'ilah? Rabbi Yochanan also said it's always good to add prayers, right? If you wanted to pray all day long, keep saying the Amidah, right? Good, add more prayers, and you could actually, if you want to say Korban Nedabah, you feel like, you know what, I feel like praying right now. You're always allowed to add, so yeah, why not? Add another one, and say Ne'ilah. There's no problem with that. Okay, but still, Hatam Choba during public fast days, it's an obligation. All the other days, it's optional, and so therefore this is a good answer. This can be what the difference that Rabbi Yochanan meant between Tisha B'Av and other fast days. Or another answer, regarding the 24 on public fast days, they would add 6 more blessings to the 18 blessings of the Amidah, and so add a lot more. And we don't do that on Tisha B'av. We add one more blessing, but we don't add these 6. So that's another possible difference. Good. Rav Papa Amad, my eno kedani tzibur. Rav Papa comes much later in the 5th generation, but he's adding another answer to help out Rabbi Yohanan when he says it's not the same. Eno karishonot ela acharonot v'asura. He meant that it's not Tisha B'av is not like the first set of fast days, because those are only half-day fast days. But Tisha B'av is, in fact, like the later fast days, and all of them are prohibited from work during twilight. Good. So that's all another way of answering it. All right. And now the last topic is regarding washing even part of one's body on Tisha B'av. Metibe and ben Tisha B'av Yom Kippurim ela shezeh sifeko asur vezeh sifeko mutar. We mentioned this Baraita that the only difference between Tisha B'av and Yom Kippur is regarding some uncertainty. Mai sifeko mutar la ben hashemashot shelo. So isn't what is it talking about? Is it not talking about twilight? Amar Rav Shesha bered Ravidi la likbiyad yadcha. No, it's talking about an uncertainty regarding the date, because we don't know when Rosh Chodesh was. Okay, so that means that's the only difference between Yom Kippur and Tisha B'av, is keeping it one day or keeping it 2 days. That means for all other things, they are equal. We can support that. Mesayeya l'Rabbi Elazar. Tamar Rabbi Elazar asur l'adam shiyoshit aspa b'mayim b'tisha b'av kederech she'asur loshit aspa b'yom kippurim. Rabbi Elazar in fact taught that you cannot even put your finger in water on Tisha B'av, just like Yom Kippur. So that fits with that Baraita. And so Tisha B'av is as stringent as Yom Kippur for washing. We have a question on that. Metibeh and ben Tisha B'av l'tani tzibur ela shezeh asur b'asiyat melacha vezeh mutar b'asiyat melacha b'makom shenagu. Another Baraita says the only difference between Tisha B'av and public fast days, now back to comparing the public fast days, is that this one you cannot do melacha, public fast days, and on Tisha B'av you can do work in a place where the custom is to do work. That means for everything else, Tisha B'av and public fast days are the same. But regarding public fast days, you're not allowed to wash your whole body, but you are allowed to wash part of your body. So according to this Baraita, it would be permitted to put your hand into water. And so this is a contradiction to the first Baraita, which we compared to Yom Kippur, which means you cannot put it into water. So what do we do with this contradiction? The answer will end with this: is Amar Papa Tana Kule Kule Katane. This Baraita was not comparing them in all ways, but rather was only listing the kulot, the ways in which Yom Kippur is more lenient than communal fast days. And so that's what it mentioned regarding doing work. But you're right, it's not giving all the comparisons. And in fact, Yom Kippur, Tisha B'av is more stringent than the other fast days when it comes to washing. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen.